let's now move on to probably the most fun part of the episode, in my opinion, which is
Yeah.
predicting the 2024-2025 NBA awards, the end of the season awards. I remember I only got like two predictions right last year. I think two. Um, for sure, the Wemby one. That was an easy pick for Rookie of the Year.
Yeah. I
Um,
think I think we got the Wemby right and the Mark Dagnall Coach of the Year.
I
And
think
then
I got that wrong because I was being a
really
dumbass because I went with my dark horse pick, which was Quinn Snyder. I thought he was gonna help the
oh
Hawks have a good
okay.
season, but they
I
ended up not.
Yeah, I think I picked Mark Dagnall. But do you remember what was the other pick you got right? Was it the 6-man one or
No, I did
no?
not guess Nas Reed at all. I think I only got
Oh,
one right,
yeah.
honestly.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know, honestly. But yeah, predicting award winners is tough, especially when you try to reflect on the previous season, because then this season a lot of things could change. By all means, what happened last year could have been a fluke, or maybe this player just does a lot better this year. This coach slash team does a lot better, or this or vice versa plays a fact. Nonetheless, that's what makes these episodes interesting because it makes us think outside the box a little bit on how we want to decide who we think will win each award. Um, but yeah, would you say it would be a good time for us to dive in?
Yes, so let's start off with probably the most boring award, which is Coach of the Year, which you got right last year. I was being a dumbass. I chose my dark horse pick. Sorry about that.
Oh,
But this time, I'm not super confident about my pick, but I think this makes sense. So, for my Coach of the Year, I'm going with Taylor Jenkins. And the reason why is because the Grizzlies had a very rough season last year due to injury. And we all know this award usually goes to the team that surprises the most, that advanced the most, that progressed the most. And I think the Grizzlies will do that and possibly even surprise me even more because I had them at like 8th seed, 7th seed prediction. But if they could do even better, if they could lock in a home court advantage and lock in a 4th seed, then yeah, I think Taylor Jenkins would deserve this award, being able to bounce back from an injury riddled season and come back to basically normal, come back to winning basketball for the organization. So that's why I'm going with Taylor Jenkins. Who are you going with?
yeah. So I will say this: Taylor Jenkins is a really good prediction, and though I did not pick him, I think he's a really good honorable mention. And I will say this: I think that he very well could win this award. The reason why, and I definitely thought hard about picking him. The reason why I ultimately didn't pick him was more so because I just don't know how high exactly of a seed the Grizzlies will be. Like in our predictions video, I predicted them to be 7th seed, I believe. Now, if they do finish 7th, it is a good jump from last season when they finished, I believe, like bottom of the West or like second worst in the West. However, I just don't know if a 7th seed would be enough to win this award if it's like barely a play-in tournament team. Granted, they could do better, but based on my season standing predictions and factoring in here, that was one of the reasons why I ultimately didn't pick them as my final pick. That being said, maybe a little bit of like a bold slash boring take. I picked Mark Dagnall again. Granted, like there's a good chance it's probably not going to happen because he just won last year. Last year, he made the crazy jump. This year, there's probably once again going to be the top of the conference, but it's not going to be like a crazy jump again, most likely. But that being said, if they can finish with like the best record in the league, like over Boston, for example, or at the very least finish as the first seed in the Western Conference, there's a chance maybe he could win two in a row. And definitely a little bit bold here for sure, knowing like since they were so good last season, it would be hard to see how much exactly they will be better. But I just decided to go as my gut. I guess more so because not as confident about the other potential options to go with. Like for example, as mentioned, Taylor Jenkins, I think he could do it, but I just don't know how high of a seed the Grizzlies will be. Um, I put JJ Redick as a honorable mention, and
Me
it
too.
could happen. Yes, sir. And it looks like that honestly might happen. I think the reason why I put him as honorable mention and not D pick is just because I don't know how high of a seed the Lakers will be. I mean, knowing these last two seasons, they finished 7 seeds 2 years in a row. Granted, it was with Darvin Ham, so things could be completely different and much better now. We hope so. But one of the reasons why I had him as honorable mention and not D pick was because of uncertainty of how the team would look. But keep up what you're doing, JJ, off the 2-0 start, and I'm sure there's a good chance he might win it. And then another honorable mention I put down was just Chris Finch for the Timberwolves. Once again, similar to Mark Daigneault, maybe a little bit bold to put him here when they were already really good last year. But I just factor in like if the Timberwolves could like somehow, some way find a way to sit atop of the West, which right now looking maybe doesn't look the most likely, but if they do shock people, definitely consideration for Coach of the Year. That being said, final pick, I will still roll with Mark Daigneault from OKC.
All right, all right. Yeah, just like you, I had JJ Redick as a honorable mention, which would be insane for his first coaching job ever, like real coaching job ever.
It'd
But
be
you know,
really
if you can make those Lakers that did awful last year and with basically the same lineup turn them around this year, I think that's worth Coach of the Year. So hopefully that happens. So JJ Redick could win Coach of the Year, but my pick is Taylor Jenkins. Let's now move
for
on
sure. Not a
to
bad
thank you, thank you. Let's move on to Rookie of the Year. There were some people that I had in mind, like Reed Shepard. I think he could have an opportunity in Houston. I know there's a lot of youthful players. I know there's there's a lot of guards there, but if he's given the opportunity, I think he'd be great as a shooter over there. Um, also want to shout out a Laker, Bronny James. No, just kidding. Dalton Connect four. When he's connecting those threes, I'm sure he could be in the conversation. He might be like our Jaime Jaquez Jr., like a guy who will be able to just produce right away for the Lakers and just do his job. Just make some threes, make some shots, and that's all I want from him. Maybe that won't be enough for Rookie of the Year, maybe not. But for me, it's Zach Edey, which I know is kind of weird, not going for like one of the top two picks in the draft. But we all know this is a weaker draft, and I think Zach Edey does, compared to the rest of the rookies, for sure have a role, which is starting center. All he's got to do is rebound, maybe block a shot, be a big body, score some points in the post, and do some screens, and that's it. That's all he has to do. And I think if he does that well enough, which he didn't really do well in his first game, he did foul out. But he's a rookie. He will improve throughout the season. But again, if he does the does his job and does it well, I think he will be rookie of the year. What about you?
So, a lot of similarities from my list versus yours, honestly. Um, Honorable mentions for me, Reed Shepard and Dalton Connect also. I think these guys will definitely do really good this season in their particular roles. Um, and I see a lot of similarities in those two guys' games, honestly. You know, the one of those white dudes that are code shooters, and potentially gonna be fan favorites in this league for a long time to come. Um, I put Alex Sarr as a honorable mention just because he was, well, the number two pick, and I know a lot of people probably thought he was going to be the number one pick initially. Um, so I just put him as an honorable mention there. But as my final pick, I actually also had Zach Edey like you, and I would say this: I think that Zach Edey's draft stock seemed to change a lot dating up to like the draft. Like in the beginning of the season, it was like kind of like moderate-ish. Like people are saying maybe he could be a first rounder, or maybe he won't be a first rounder. And then ultimately, as the time went by, he went from like maybe a late first round pick to a middle first round pick, and then eventually a high first round pick, being the ninth overall pick. That being said, even as a ninth pick, I think that he, like, as many people think, will be potentially the rookie of the year. And that's because, like, he looks like he could potentially be, like, a force to be reckoned with as a um, tall, tall big that can also shoot the ball a little bit, like, not known for his shooting, but he had, like, a nice little run at Purdue. And we'll say this, um, his debut was not necessarily the best outing. Only 5 points against the Jazz and only took 4 shots, 2 out of 4, which is not bad efficiency, 50%, but low numbers there. However, his second game against the Rockets, much better. 13 points on 6 for 10 field goals, 9 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal, 1 block. Now, if he can like play a little bit more like that and more, I think he's on pace to win Rookie of the Year. Um, but I think a lot of these rookies, they're gonna have like a lot of inconsistencies and up and downs because it's normal for rookies like to grow adapted to the big leagues after dominating in college. It's not going to be as easy once they play bigger, faster, stronger players in the pros. So, end result, I do believe Zach Edey will take the Rookie of the Year.
All right, so we agree there. Let's see about this next one, which is Sixth Man of the Year. And I'm gonna go with the man that should have won it last year, Malik Monk. And know there's an argument where he probably might not win it since he's not gonna have as much touches with DeMar DeRozan there. He's not gonna be utilized as much during clutch moments because again, DeMar DeRozan there. But this man is a bucket from the bench. He is the perfect spark plug for the team. And again, I'm kind of butthurt for him that he didn't win the award, even though Nasri does deserve it. So, but yeah, I'm gonna root for him. I'm gonna speak it into existence. He will win Sixth Man of the Year. And my second place, I guess, my only honorable mention was Dante DiVincenzo, who has shown last year that he could be a spark plug as well, uh, trading threes like crazy. And, as much as he wants his minutes, he wants to be a starter. It's not going to happen if, we have Conley and Anthony Edwards as the starting guards. So I think if he accepts his role and uh, play his hardest. He does have for sure a chance to win Sixth Man of the Year. It would be the second time a Timberwolf would win this award within the last 2 years, which would be cool. But yeah, I'm rooting for Malik Monk here.
For sure, and not a bad pick. Definitely one of my notable mentions for sure. Um, that being said, I didn't actually pick Malik Monk as my official winner. I did have him as an honorable mention. So I'll start with my honorable mentions. Um, so one honorable mention I have is the defending Sixth Man of the Year, Nas Reed. Now, obviously, did big things for the Timberwolves last year coming off the bench, and I expect no different this year. And if he keeps it up, I think there's a good chance he defends his title. Um, Next, as my honorable mention, I put Alex Caruso on the list. Um, Strong ad for OKC there. And as mentioned earlier, AC does a lot of the dirty work for every team that he plays for. And a lot of what he does is just not shown in the box score. Um, and casuals will look at the box score and think like this guy doesn't do much. Completely mistaken. This guy does a lot that is just not shown on a box score. So definitely worthy of a six-man mention, I think, knowing how much this guy does as an impact. That being said, Malik Monk as my honorable mention. Now, I think that for sure he could have won it last year. Maybe should have won it last year. Um, I guess my only question is, I don't know about like the status of the Kings per se. Like, granted, like it maybe it doesn't really matter. Like the Kings could be a bad team, and he could still put up really big numbers, and he could still win this award. Um, and I think there's a good chance he can. But ultimately, I actually picked Dante DiVincenzo to win this award. And I think the reasoning for me picking him was because I think that he is going to do wonders for this team off the bench. Now, losing Cat was really big, but I think their biggest gain from doing the trade, despite the big loss of Cat, was getting Dante DiVincenzo.
I
Not
agree.
Julius, yeah, not Julius Randle, Dante DiVincenzo. And as we've seen already, this guy has been showing his impact. Granted, he has not shot the ball the best to start the season. I'm sure he'll get his stroke going sooner rather than later. But doing all the other stuff, like his defense, his hustle plays, um, yeah, I think this is a good ad for this team. And granted, like he has done good for other contenders in the past. Obviously, starting his career in Milwaukee, and then he helped contribute to the Warriors. Unfortunately, the year when they didn't win the championship, but still did good wonders to helping them get that far. And then last year was the Knicks, took them to as far. In huge part was because of what Dante did. So I think that him being an addition to the Timberwolves was huge. And that being said, I have him as the Sixth Man of the Year final pick winner.
Good pick, honestly.
Thank
Okay. Next award we're gonna talk about is most improved player. This was kind of hard for me. It was hard to try to figure out who would be the most improved player. Uh, I thought about Mobley because we've been wanting to see him develop an offensive bag more and more, and if he does that, then I think that would be enough to push him into the not six man, most improved award stratosphere. And so far so good. He's been looking good so far, but ultimately for me, I am picking Jalen Williams, J Dubs. And the reason why is because I think he is gonna uh, hopefully he's gonna become the second guy on the team. I know in the first game he was kind of playing third fiddle because Chet played like the second guy. Honestly, debatably, you could have said he was the best man on the floor that game. But I do think Jalen Williams will be the number two guy, especially on the offensive side of things. I think he's gonna continue improving and up his points per game, which is definitely a big deal for this award if you improve that. I think he averaged like 18, 19 points last year. If he could get to the 24, 25 mark and make his first All Star game as well, I think that's enough to push him over the edge and win this award. But all those things need to happen in order for him to win this award. If that doesn't happen, then honestly, who knows who will win this award? It's always a surprise. Like nobody knew Kobe White was gonna be in the race last year, but he was. Um, but yeah, that's my pick. What about you?
Um, yeah. So first off, good pick. We'll say definitely a candidate that I actually also picked, by the way. But yeah. So to let me just go dive in. So I picked J Dub to win this award also because I think that he is gonna do wonders with OKC as a top seed in the West and potentially the maybe the team to win it all later on. That being said, obviously last year J Dub made a really big leap. I think that he can make an even bigger leap for sure. Just constantly making strides, showing a lot of promise. I think is only going to get better from here. And for the fact that he's going to be playing for a contender, I think it's going to even more stand out because they're going to be getting a lot of the national spotlight. So that's why I believe J Dub will win the award at the end. But a few honorable mentions. First one, Jalen Johnson on the Hawks. He had a really good season last year. A lot of cool highlight plays too. I mean, obviously had that one crazy dunk on Austin Reeves. Although it was against the Lakers, nonetheless a really cool dunk. That being said, he was really good last season. I can for sure see him make a major leap this season and get even better. So that is why I put him on this list. Um, I put Evan Mobley also in the sense that if he can um, stay on the floor, improve his defense even more, which would be crazy because he's already really good at defense, and if he could somehow, some way, improve like his shooting a little bit, maybe like get like a little bit of 3 point shot or at least like mid range get a little bit better. There's a chance that he could potentially for sure be in the running for this award. Um, but the last pick I put for honorable mention for most improved, I put Scoot Henderson just because he had a very lackluster rookie season. That being said, if you don't have a really good, if you didn't have a really good season last year, there's a chance you can do really good this year, have a breakout, and then you'll be in the running for this award. Um, I think there's a chance that could happen for Scoot. A lot of times it comes where the rookie does really good, and then in the second year they have the sophomore slump. There's a chance I think for him maybe it was a rookie year slump and then a sophomore year breakout. It's possible. I don't know how confident I am with this happening, knowing like Trailblazers not going to be a good team. But actually, if anything, maybe that will free up more opportunities for him to be a breakout because the rest of the team is so bad. So that being said, I think Scoot Henderson for sure worthy of honorable mention. But at the end, I got to pick Jalen Williams, aka J Dub, to win this award.
Great pick. I definitely agree. Let's move on now to what's the next one? The next one is Clutch Player of the Year, a newer award. that a lot of people don't like. Uh, but we're gonna try to predict anyways. And I had a few honorable mentions. Steph will always be in conversation. I think Jalen Brunson will as well. We all know he's the number one guy there, so I think the ball will be in his hands during clutch moments. Luka Doncic has had a lot of clutch moments throughout his career. Has some great clutch moments last year. Even had one of like the best like uh actually no, I think I'm mixing that up with someone else. But anyways, he had some great clutch moments last year. Um including in the finals, in the playoffs. But ultimately I am going with Anthony Edwards. Honestly, it was hard to choose. Like you can't really predict who was gonna score a lot in the clutch because you can't predict who will be in a lot of clutch moments. But I just know that the team will have their inconsistencies. They will have their close games because of that. And we all know that Anthony Edwards is the number one guy for the Timberwolves. So the ball will be in his hands for sure. And I'm sure he is going to have some clutch moments this year because of that. So that's why I'm going with Anthony Edwards. But if you want to argue anybody else I mentioned or not mentioned, it's honestly like free for all. You could literally pick anybody, and uh, it might be the right answer. So we'll see. But I'm going with Anthony Edwards. What about you?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, this award is kind of hard to predict because like it's hard to predict which teams will be in a lot of clutch game situations or which teams would need players to play hero ball more often, you name it. Um, at the end, I decided to pick Luca just because I feel like there's a chance maybe the Mavericks will be in a lot of tight games with the tough competition, and then in turn, maybe he will need to show his heroics. And that being said, I think that's where he will deliver. In the past, obviously, Luca has had a lot of clutch performances with clutch game winners. He had two clutch game winners against Boston, two separate years. One was in the 2020-21 season, and then the other was in the 2021-22 season. Unfortunately, we weren't able to see those game winners against them last year. That would have been cool, but nonetheless, he has had, and he also had some cool game winners. One more I forgot that was probably his most impressive one was that like falling away three against the Grizzlies in 2021.
Yeah, that was fire.
Yeah, that was really cool. He was like completely off balance. Somehow, some way, found a way to make it floating. Very cool. Um, Nonetheless, it's hard to predict the teams that will be in that situation. But at the end, I pick Luca to win it. So that being said, honorable mentions. First one, Steph Curry. Um, which this one is like more so looking at like abilities, accolades, you name it. So no, obviously in the playoffs, Steph has not necessarily been very good in clutch situations, but in the regular season, he has been pretty clutch in making good, really good shots in clutch situations. And we don't know like how many close games that will go down to the wire like that the Warriors will be in, but who knows? Maybe there will be in a lot of close competitive games, and that will free up opportunities for Steph to go in clutch situations, and we'll see if he will break through. But I think definitely worthy for sure for Steph to be in the conversation. Um, Another one, I put Damian Lillard on this list. I don't know how many like per se clutch game situations will be needed for the Bucks like that. But let's say the Bucks are down by like three with 5 seconds left. Guarantee you they will go to Dame over Giannis, for example, to shoot a three. Now, granted, They could maybe go to like Chris Middleton per se as like a second option if he is healthy and on the floor. But I would be much more confident in Dame's ability, knowing that he is an elite shooter and has had plenty of clutch situations in the past. He last season did not look like the same Dame as he was in Portland, but hopefully after continuity and a full training camp, he does better and is improved back again to his old ways this year. And then my last honorable mention, Jalen Brunson, like you mentioned. Knicks probably will be in a lot of close games this year. Potentially, that will give opportunities where they will need a clutch shot. And Jalen Brunson, being the best player on the team, he is for sure going to be one of the top options to attempt that game-winning or game-tying shot. That being said, definitely Jalen Brunson worthy of being on this list. But at the end of the day, I pick Luka as my winner for Clutch Player of the Year.
Definitely not a bad pick. That's for sure. Okay, we're getting towards the end. Let's go talk about Defensive Player of the Year. And my pick is gonna be the exact same pick I made last year, even though I was wrong. I'm gonna do it again because I want this to happen. I think this needs to happen, and I'm gonna speak it into existence. Anthony Davis. I think Anthony Davis will be uh, Defensive Player of the Year. He's been one of the best, if not the best defender in the league for years now. It's just that the Lakers have not been one of the top defensive teams, but that possibly might happen if they keep improving this year. It's looking good so far. Hopefully, they keep it up so that and improve their defensive abilities in order to help Anthony Davis finally win a DPOY. Obviously, the obvious choice here, one of my honorable mentions, is Victor Wembanyama. I think everybody believes he's gonna win this award. I think the betting odds is saying that he's gonna win this by a landslide. He was second place last year. He talked about how he was gonna let Rudy Gobert win this one because he's gonna win all of the other DPOYs moving forward. But let's not forget to mention that throughout the history of this award, at least for the most part, you have to have an elite defensive team in order to win this award. At least that's what's been going on. And that's what prevented Anthony Davis from winning this award. Even though he should have won, like possibly like when Marcus Smart won it. Like he only won it because Boston was the best defense in the league. Debatably, he wasn't even the best defender. It could have been Time Lord that could have won this award instead of Marcus Smart. Uh, that is definitely a debate that could be had. So I would be very angry if Victor Wembanyama wins this award, even though he is an incredible defensive player. I would be very pissed if he wins if the Spurs are not a great defensive team, which is probably what's gonna happen. Like I don't think this team is gonna be great defensively. I think this team is gonna suck. So if Victor still ends up winning this award in his second season with a bad defensive team, then yeah, I would be pissed because then why haven't we given this award to Anthony Davis already? Um, but yeah, still he's gonna be an honorable mention. So will Bam. I'm sure Giannis will be in the conversation. Chet, Mobley, these are all guys that are great defenders. But I'm going with my guy, Anthony Davis.
Okay, good pick for sure. I like it, and I hope it happens knowing we are Lakers fan. That being said, unfortunately for my pick, I am gonna have to go with the majority that what other people think, and that would be Victor Wembanyama. And it's just simply due to the fact that like his like defensive numbers are so crazy last season. I can only imagine he'll do it again. And granted, his height is the major reason why. Like averaging 2 or 3 blocks per game, whatever it was, is crazy. Now, granted, with his height, he probably should do that. You would argue, but you got to execute, and man, did he do that?
To be
And I
fair,
think
he
go
averaged
ahead.
three. He averaged 3.6 blocks, so almost 4 blocks a game last year.
Oh yeah, even more. Yeah, so crazy stuff for sure. So to average damn near 4 blocks a game is insanity for sure. Even if you are of that high, like yeah, it's crazy stuff. Which is why I pick him to win this award. I think that he's only gonna be just as good, if not better, and it's gonna be tough to top that. Um, that being said, though, he's gonna have competition without a doubt. And starting with Anthony Davis, AD, I think that like as we mentioned earlier, he is playing like a potential MVP candidate so far in these first 2 games. Phenomenal. And his defense has also been really great. Stay healthy, keep that up, and there is a good chance he could finally break his um, unfortunate streak of getting robbed from winning this award. And as Lakers fans, we certainly hope so. And I think there's a good chance it can happen as long as he's on the floor. That being said, other options, Bam for sure. The elite defender always does that throughout his time in the league and expecting no difference. Just gotta stay on the floor. And then Chet, definitely same similar body build to Wemby. Um, so definitely has the abilities to also win this award. Not quite as good as Wemby, still really good though. And for sure honorable mention. Playing for OKC, top contender. And though I didn't add him on my list initially just because I have a lot of guys already, I will say your mention of Evan Mobley for sure worthy because he is for sure a really good defensive player. And quite honestly, all of these guys we mentioned, I think do have a chance. Like, I don't know if there would be a per se clear cut favorite. I mean, Wemby probably would be the favorite, but I wouldn't say it's like crazy lead over these other guys. So I think any of these guys have a chance to potentially win it. But at the end, I will pick Victor Wembanyama to win this award.
Okay, the safe pick, but probably the right pick. Okay, we got one last big award to talk about before we do one last prediction, and the award is of course the MVP award. And I think this is the year where Jokic will finally stop winning an MVP. He's won 3 of the last 4 MVPs. He's very talented, could continue being the greatest player in the league. But I think due to voter fatigue and due to the fact that his team might not be as good as the past few years, I think he's not going to win it, even though he could be an honorable mention. And some of my other honorable mentions include Giannis for always being one of the best players in the league. He secretly had like his best season last year, debatably better or just as good as his MVP seasons. And another honorable mention is Shea, which is definitely a favorite because he's gonna be the best player on the best team, at least in the West. I'll also throw in Jason Tatum in there as well, best player in the best team, probably in the entire league, but for sure in the East. But I am going with Luka Doncic. I think this is finally the year he's gonna win it. He's proven that he is talented enough to take a team to the finals, and I think that will help the narrative. And I think if this Mavs team is really good, like a top 4 seed, top 3 seed at least, I think he'll win it. I think because the biggest reason why he hasn't won it, besides Jokic being so dominant, is because the Mavs haven't been a very high seed. They've had good seedings before, but not a super high seed. And the West is competitive this year, but if Klay Thompson proves me wrong, if the Mavs continue being a defensive force, and Kyrie is uh, Luka's Robin, then I think this team will improve, and that alone will win him the MVP because he plays like an MVP. He nearly averaged a 35-point triple double throughout the entire season last year. He was the basically the best player in the world last year, but he didn't get the MVP. He wasn't even second place. I think he was third, right behind Shea, who is talented and everything, but I think he's not in the same level as Luca. As great as he is, I don't think he's as an elite of a player. I think Luca is a generational player, while Shea is just a really, really insanely good player on a really good team. So, no disrespect to Shea, but I think this will be Luca's year to win it, and it would be weird if Shea wins an MVP before Luca, since Luca's been playing like an MVP for like 5 years now, and Shea's been playing like an MVP for like 1 year. This is like last season was like the first time, or maybe the second time he was first team All NBA. Luca's been first team All NBA since his sophomore year. He's again been one of the best players of all time within his short time span within the league. It's his year to win the MVP. I think it will be outrageous if he doesn't win the MVP, especially if the Mavs are really, really good. If they're bad, then I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't win it, but I think this will be his year.
For sure. And that being said, I actually agree with you. I think that Luka will win this MVP this year, and in large part due to the fact that I think that the Mavs will continue to do really good this season and do really special things. Still, in large part due to Luka, generational talent, as you mentioned, has been playing elite pretty much since his sophomore season, and unfortunately, he was not able to win this award a lot of times due to whether because of Nikola Jokic doing so good in his facets of the game, or the Mavs just not being good enough as a team. That being said, this season, I think there's a good chance if the Mavs can take the next step, maybe, or at least be a reasonable range to where they were last season, maybe, then Luka will be able to get over the hump and win it this year. And not to mention, if Luka makes yet another leap and does even more amazing than he already does, then there's a good chance that he could even get boosted further. But that being said, I think that it's hard not to pick Luka because he has been doing so great for so long. And I wouldn't necessarily say robbed because of how good those other 10 players were, like Jokic and Embiid that 1 year, but unfortunately unfavored due to those other players that were just happened to be a little bit better. But I think this is the year he will finally break through. That being said, honorable mentions, I actually have the exact same honorable mentions as you. Shea, Jokic, and Giannis. So for Shea, I think he's going to be really good this season for a really good team that probably will have a better record than the Mavs. But as you mentioned, it would be crazy if Shea got an MVP before Luka, especially knowing that Luka has been doing his thing for a longer time than Shea has. Because Shea has been always really good, but he really broke out last season to the MVP type for him. Versus the previous years before that, he was all-star talent, but not necessarily breakout MVP candidate. That being said, I think he will be in the running for the MVP again, but it would be crazy if he did win before Luka. I completely agree with you on that thought. That being said, Jokic, obviously, he has won two or well, no, he won 3 MVPs, correct? Right? Um, yeah. So he's won 3 MVPs, 3 of the last 4, and has been pretty much the best player in the league for at least the last 2 seasons. And then from there on, it was arguable between like him, Giannis, and so forth. That being said, there's going to be a really good chance he will be in the running again, especially knowing that Denver will be a good team still. It's probably going to take a step back, but definitely going to be still top of the conference. So Jokic, definitely another worthy candidate once again. Next, Giannis. So the thing about Giannis is he's always going to be one of the top most fun. Well, I don't know. You could argue maybe not the most fun because run and dunk man, but like I still enjoy watching the guy play because his he's good. Not as much because of his offense as it is because of like his defense, his ball skills. Like though his ball skills is not like crazy, it is sometimes fun to see him like dribble or like slight Euro step a little bit. Yeah, I think that Giannis, he's definitely gonna still for sure be one of the top players of the league. It's more so, I guess, a question about like how good the Bucks will be. Like they'll probably still be at the top of the conference. It's just a question what exact seed. But if they can be top 3 and he has a really great season, then good chance he will for sure be in the MVP running once again. By the end of the day, I gotta still stick and stay with Luka as the final pick for MVP.
All right. I'm glad we could agree there. Now, those are all the end of the season awards, but just like last year, we want to predict the the finals basically, who will be in the finals and who will win a finals MVP, etc. And I think this year is going to be pretty obvious. I know uh, both conferences are pretty stacked when it comes to like their best teams, but I think it's obvious that the Celtics are gonna win it in the East and make it to the finals again. And there could be more conversation on the West. I think that one's more up in the air. But at the end of the day, I do think the Thunder are gonna be the best team and prove it in the finals in the playoffs this time and reach the finals. And I'm going with the bold pick because I don't want to talk the other result into existence. So I am going with the Thunder winning the championship and Shea winning Finals MVP. That is my prediction on how the end of the season is gonna end. I was definitely wrong last year, but yeah, I think I said that the Nuggets and the Bucks were gonna face each other. I was wrong, but hopefully I'm right this year, and hopefully the Celtics will win. But yeah, what do you think? What is your prediction?
So, actually, I have the same pick as you. Um, I got OKC beating the Celtics in 7 on the road. I think that is bold, especially if they don't have home court advantage and winning it on the road. But I'm gonna say this though. Okay, if they finish, how about this? If OKC finishes with a better record than the Celtics, I think it's still gonna go 7, and they would win Game 7 at home. Probably Boston will have a better record, so then I make that prediction. But I would say this though. I think probably what would happen if, let's say, Boston doesn't have home court advantage is going to be 2 teams split the 2 games in Boston. 2 teams split the 2 games in OKC. It's going to be 2-2. And then I think from there, my prediction is going to be Celtics win Game 5 at home. OKC wins Game 6 at home. And then Game 7 is going to be a complete nail biter going down to the wire. And I'm gonna say at the very end, OKC is gonna clutch up, and Boston is going to miss some shots. Tatum is gonna miss a big shot, and then ultimately OKC pulls away and wins their first championship in franchise history.
That was
I think
very
that would be
detailed.
yeah, I think that would be a really cool storybook ending and a really cool way to win a first final for sure for a franchise that hasn't won before. That is a little bit of me fantasizing and what I think would be really cool. But low key, I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. I think it would be very competitive, and I do think it would go 7. But I am going to go bold, and I'm going to pick OKC in the upset, if you want to call it an upset. For all we know, it might not be an upset. Maybe OKC will be the better team by the end of the season. But I think Thunder over Celtics in 7. Shea winning Finals MVP, and definitely going to be close and down to the wire. I think it's going to be a very cool finish for OKC winning their first championship.
Yeah, I totally agree. This will for sure be a very competitive series. I think it would go to 7 no matter who has the home court advantage, and I'm still gonna take the Thunder. Uh, but yeah, this will be competitive because these teams are very similar. They both have MVP caliber players. They both have very defensive minded guards. They have uh, an elite stretch five. They both have decent benches. They're very similar, so it could go either way. But I agree. I'm going with the Thunder. Maybe not the right choice, but it's the choice I'm going with and that you're going with. So let's hope that that happens. But I guess we are done here. Those are all of our predictions.